Yesterday was Ivy Day, March 27th, 2025. Yeah, it's been a pivotal moment for high school seniors. You know, you spend 4 years grinding your butt off, getting like a near perfect SAT score, starting crazy nonprofits, getting medals for STEM Olympiads, raising thousands of dollars, writing their own books, doing things like Model UN, Science School History, World Deca, HOSA, USABO, using Co, publishing research papers, curing cancer, dropping thousands on tutoring for SAT, ACT, summer programs, tutoring, sports, school study materials, Olympiad textbooks, you name it, everything. We accumulate 1,460 days worth of blood, sweat, and tears, pour our hearts out in essays we write in our senior year, and then we sell ourselves with peak precision to these Ivy League schools, these elite, prestigious schools that everybody wants to get in just for the name. We want to have a good future, to say the least, and we want to open opportunity. We want to make sure that we get that internship. We want to become a quant. We want to become this amazing politician, and maybe that school's all you need, that name on your resume. Or you just like the school for the programs they're in. I understand both perspectives, and I've heard from both perspectives. However, the reason why I'm making this video is because yesterday, March 27th, was actually one of the worst Ivy days I've seen personally. I'll give you a little context. So, I recently attended a summer program called the Garcia Summer Scholars Research Program. And historically, we've had most of the kids go to Ivy Leagues, at least an Ivy League or a T10. And also, historically, my school has sent a lot of people to a few Ivy League schools, namely UPenn, Cornell, maybe one or two every year to like a T5, Yale, Princeton, HYP, SM, if that's whatever they call it. But this year was really bad, not just for those Ivy League schools, but for schools in general. I've heard acceptance rates have dropped from the class of 2027 to 28, and then finally to this year to the class of 29. And from the Garcia Summer Scholars Program, we had quite less Ivy League acceptances, I'd say. It's pretty noticeable. And even if someone got in, it was only one. It wasn't like multiple from the years before. And schools that used to have like 10 to 15 kids getting in, for example, a school near here used to send at least like 5, 10, 15 kids every year. They only had a few. Like, it was kind of crazy in our school too. Our school only had like 3 kids, if save for Questbridge, which was one person who got into a singular Ivy League, none with multiple. And the standards from the previous years where all you needed was a certain GPA, a certain rigor of ECs, and a certain SAT, and you would pretty much guarantee admission to at least 2 of them, it's gone. If I applied with the stats that I had, if my friend applied with the stats that he had 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 2 or 3 years ago, they probably would have gotten to better schools. And maybe it's just copium, but I swear to God, this is what's happening. I have a few reasons that after I've done some last minute research after my acceptances and rejections and waitlists came out. I've been scrolling through r/applying to college. The amount of people, I swear to God, there was a record number of posts about kids who'd fell into this deep depression because of a full list of rejections. And once in a blue moon, there'd just be this post talking about how oh my God, I got Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, Dartmouth, UPenn, Cornell, and they're like, oh my God, which one do I choose? Bro, if you got into all of those schools, I think you have enough brain cells to make the right decision there. But yeah. One of the biggest things that I was impacted by and that I have seen happen this year is actually the increased use of early decision and early action programs. So, crazy story for me. I applied to the University of Florida, UF as people call it, and historically people from my school have gotten in after you pass a certain benchmark. So, let's say you have a 1500 SAT, 4.3 and above on your GPA. We weighed out of 4.81 weighted. It's kind of weird, but historically there hasn't been a single person, right? Nobody has ever been rejected with those. Everybody or most has gotten the honors program too, if you apply. So I applied this year, right? UF recently introduced an early action program where you can apply early and they'll probably take a higher percentage of applications from that pool compared to regular decision. You're basically extending your interest in this school compared to other schools. So I applied EA as my college counselor advised most of the students to apply EA at my school too, because UF is a great safety school. and she had no doubt that I would get rejected. Sorry, she had no doubt that I would make it in, right? Um, Guess what? I opened the thing and I got rejected, just hard rejected. The first student ever with a 1560 and a near perfect GPA. And I'd say that I had decent, at least considered decent ECs if you just glossed over them to get rejected. We have a website called Squire where we can see every single person who has applied their stats if they got in waitlist or rejected. My corner, my quadrant was 100%. The heat map said 100% green. Out of like the 40, 50 kids from the past 10 years who'd applied, I was the only person who's ever been rejected in that category. Insane. I really don't know what to say. Like EA, maybe the implementation of ED and EA with the more like with more people coming in and applying, maybe they've changed their standards for this pool. At least just for UF, or maybe it's gotten more competitive. It doesn't make sense for something like that to just happen. Also, Brown's like ED rate, I'm pretty sure it's like 17.95%. It's significantly higher than 5.65, but I'm pretty sure it's gone down over the recent years. And I know a lot of the other schools with like EDEA, at least this year, there's been like less people getting in. I swear that's what's happening. I don't know why. And maybe this just all goes back to more people applying. Like it's just really confusing to me. And if you guys have any opinions, like I'm open to hearing them and I'm open to replying to anything because I've just been thinking about it and I've been scrolling through these like A2C threads and everybody's just like on this census that maybe this year was a little more competitive. Another thing that I actually think has been happening is that institutions are focusing more on a holistic review. And this is like when I say holistic, I mean like they look at your GPA and SAT and maybe like research and stuff, and these things are getting more and more common, like I mentioned before. And instead of taking a kid in because they have a good GPA, good SAT, good research, as soon as this kid meets a certain benchmark for those, they'll start considering like, does this kid have a story? Did they sell themselves well? Like, did you have a unique hobby you've been mastering since you were like 3 or 4 years old? Often the people I see who get into Ivy Leagues are those type of kids. Like this kid's been crocheting since he was like in the womb and he's won crocheting competitions or some obscure thing you've never heard of. Like people who excel at like bioprinting, like the most insane, like beekeeping, like these crazy hobbies that like are make you stand out. They make you unique. I also feel like they've been looking at your essays more these days because I actually have a friend who he didn't have, oh no, his stats were pretty good if you're just talking about GPA SAT, but in terms of ECs, his ECs weren't particularly strong. However, he did get a likely letter from Columbia, and I know they give those only to a very small percentage of applications, and obviously it wasn't because of his ECs, right? And he didn't get an likely letter from any other college, and he did personally write each college's essays, so it probably had to do with the essays. So at least for Columbia, and I read over his essays, they were great. So I think some colleges at least have started looking more into essays. And that just goes to show that even if you don't have good ECs, as long as your stats meet a certain benchmark, you can probably sell yourself well enough. And some people just take like small aspects of their life, like this maybe the small thing they've been doing, even though they're not a master at it, and they just turn it into their whole college application. Like I said before, crocheting. I have a friend who made it into Harvard. She wrote her Common App about crocheting. I'm not sure, like I'm not gonna say anything wrong, but I'm sure that hadn't been like crocheting since like she was 3 years old. There's no way the story would have meant so much to her where she would like choose that over things she'd done, like maybe like an instrument or piano. But those seem to be the strategies that like make students stand out and make them stellar compared to other people. And it's kind of unfair if you think about it. You can work 4 years as hard as you want, but you're gonna get these typical awards, if you want to think about it that way, that other people already have. And it's not really gonna make you stand out and you're just gonna get rejections. And I feel like that's kind of what happened to people at my school, at least. One theory I've seen, and one thing that's been seen in statistics at least, is that there's actually been a surge in application numbers. In 2025, there was a significant increase in competitiveness, and not just in 2025, but also in 2024. For example, UPenn had like a crazy increase. I think they had like 72,000 this year compared to like 65,000. I don't know if these numbers are right, but I know it was a huge increase. But and it wasn't just for UPenn. Like I heard, what was it? I heard USC had a insane amount of people. Like the acceptance rate went from like 11% for like 4% for RAD. It's actually insane. And like all colleges that I've seen at least have had some crazy record breaking number of applications. And if you are on TikTok or if you are on like Reddit or any of these social media platforms, often it's also Instagram. You've seen this like thing about like 2007 birth rate spikes. I don't think it's that, but I think it's just people are seeing that other people are getting into these colleges and they're applying, and as like the years go on, more people are encouraged to apply as ECs are easier to get. Like research isn't as guarded as it is before to high school students. These programs are getting more public. A lot of people have started clubs like DECA, HOSA, any Olympiad clubs. Like I mentioned before, these things are getting a lot more competitive. And as the years go by, more people do these things. More people think that they're at the rigor for an Ivy League and they apply. And also Ivy Leagues are also trying to, they're trying to get more applicants. Like they obviously want more diverse, no more diverse incoming classes. So they'll probably try to advertise towards different like groups of people, and they'll accept those people, and then maybe they'll hear from people who got in years before, and then they'll apply because of that. Yeah. But another reason I saw was actually something that got like implemented a few years ago and then it started dropping off. But I think it does play a role. It's that some Ivy Leagues have gone test optional in the past, and it's seen that there was an increase in applications because of that. Because if you remove standardized tests, like colleges have made it so much more accessible. I know people with like great ECs, it's just that they can't get their certain 1500 benchmark for like the SAT or like a 35, 34 on the ACT. And like this inclusivity, like even though it's beneficial, it's contributed to the huge swell in applications. And yeah, thereby it reduces acceptance rates. I think my conclusion from IB Day, at least, just like my thoughts from it, is that this college application process, as uniform as it seems sometimes, like get good ECs, get good stats, sell yourself, give yourself a story, it's so random. Like, people can, everybody says like it only takes one. People can reject it from like every single school that they thought they would get into, and then they just get into like this random school they didn't think they would get into. You never know what your AO is thinking. It's kind of crazy of how like 4 years of your hard work, your accomplishments, it stands in the hands of like some random middle-aged man who's working on like a decent wage. You don't know how his day is going. You don't know if he's had his coffee that morning. You don't know if he's actually going to read through your essays. You don't know if he's tired. You don't know if he get enough sleep. Like, there's so many. It's kind of crazy. Like, I feel like I have friends who just got into schools that I did not think they would get into. I have friends who did not get into schools that I think they would get into. I didn't get into a school that I think I would get into. And it's just like, it's kind of crazy. Like, but in the end, honestly, like, does it really matter? I feel like a person who's intrinsically motivated enough to work that hard, to care this much about college, they're gonna be fine either way. You're gonna get into like baseline community college, state school. Like, there's no way you F up that badly. If you have the motivation to get a good GPA, good SAT, the most baseline things, you're gonna go to at least those schools. And if you have that motivation in high school, you're gonna succeed in college no matter where you go. Let's be honest. Like, you're gonna graduate at the top of your class. If you have that motivation, like if you care this much about college, I respect you. That means you have goals, you have exactly what you want to do in mind, and you're gonna regain those goals. You're gonna remap yourself after you go to college, and you're gonna succeed. Like, you're gonna look back in 10 years, maybe you started your own company, maybe you got the job you wanted just from like a different college. Like, realistically, Cornell, Penn, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, it's not gonna get you, like, I mean, sure, it's easier to get jobs with those things, but like when it comes to like most jobs, you can get most jobs with just like a state school or degree. Like, I was thinking about it, like it really doesn't matter too much as long as you're locked in enough. I feel like if you graduate at the top of your class, which is definitely controllable in your hands, like that's something you can't really complain about. You're gonna succeed either way. And as long as you have the motivation to get into college in the first place, you're fine. You don't need an Ivy League. You don't need a T20. And sure, those programs might give you some advantages, but in the end, everything is determined by how much motivation you have. I have so many friends, so many kids I used to know as a middle schooler who have not gone to college they hoped they would, but I mean, they're well off. There's a kid who's a quant now, as crazy as it seems, coming from a school he didn't think he would be going to because he thought he had higher expectations, but it's just kind of crazy. Like, honestly, like being waiting for Ivy Day is like a privilege in itself. I think that's what like all of this has like gone to. Like, if you're dedicated enough to get to this point in the first place, you're gonna be fine either way in life. So like, just don't think too much about it. If you didn't get anywhere, you didn't get anywhere. You have a safety, and I'm sure you got into your safety. You're gonna get into college, and you're gonna have the same motivation, the same goals. You're gonna be as locked in as you were in high school. You're gonna get the same GPA, if not better. Just don't crash out, and you're fine. Don't be depressed. You're fine. Like, come on, guys. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Signing off.